Today is, well, it's July 1st, 2026. And, the world is building the most advanced artificial intelligence in human history.
Right, at a totally unprecedented scale.
Yeah, exactly. But it is doing it while sweating through record heat waves, relying on 2,000-foot drug tunnels and leaning on these really fragile Middle East treaties just to keep the lights on.
It is a massive contradiction.
It really is. So if you are joining us right now, you're probably looking for a way to cut through all that noise. We have a heavy stack of sources today.
We do. We're looking at the 4 p.m. news brief from the Daily Tech Reader.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to, decode this massive macro-level shift that is happening right beneath our feet. Because looking at this briefing, 2026 is no longer about flashy technological experiment.
No, that era is entirely over.
We have officially entered the era of operational infrastructure. Everything from the cloud to the actual physical electrical grid is being hardened for the long haul.
Yeah, the underlying architecture of our economy is just being entirely rewired. And what makes this briefing so critical for you to understand as a listener is that the novelty phase has officially expired.
Yeah, the honeymoon is over.
Exactly. The markets and the geopolitical powers, they're no longer interested in potential. They are demanding measurable physical execution.
Which is exactly why we are doing this. Whether you are trying to navigate a shifting job market, figure out where capital is flowing, or you just want to be the most well-informed person in the room without reading for 5 hours straight.
Consider this deep dive your cheat sheet.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute loudest topic in these sources, which is enterprise AI.
Oh yeah, it dominates the brief.
It does. But the narrative here has undergone frankly, a violent shift from just 2 years ago. We're seeing AI transition from pilot projects and innovation labs directly into routine, boring business infrastructure.
It's becoming the plumbing.
Yeah. Foundation models are now actively competing on efficiency and operating costs, rather than just throwing raw, unchecked compute power at a problem.
And that shift from capability to efficiency, it's purely mechanical. I mean, when an enterprise deploys an AI agent to handle millions of customer service queries or, manage global logistics.
The compute cost must be insane.
Astronomical. Investors are looking at these models and strictly favoring profitable AI companies based on measurable productivity improvements.
Right, they want to see the ROI.
Exactly. The metric of success is no longer, can the model write a poem? The metric is, did this model reduce our software deployment time by 40% without doubling our Amazon Web Services bill?
It really feels like we are moving from the concept car phase of AI to the mass-produced minivan phase.
I like that, the minivan phase.
Yeah, because, a concept car has laser headlights and doors that open like wings. But a minivan is engineered for one specific metric, reliably getting the kids to soccer practice without breaking down.
Right. And it has to do it cheaply.
Exactly. And we are seeing that. Multimodal AI is becoming the standard. AI coding assistants are fundamentally reshaping software development. And the open source ecosystems are just thriving because companies want smaller, customizable models they can run cheaply.
They don't need a massive model to do a simple task.
Right, yeah. But I have to push back on this narrative for a second. If everyone in the enterprise space is suddenly prioritizing operating costs over groundbreaking new capabilities, doesn't that mean the AI hype bubble is bursting?
It's a fair question.
Like, are we just watching this deflate into another boring software utility?
What's fascinating here is you might assume a focus on cost means the momentum is dying. But the historical data points to the exact opposite.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, becoming a boring utility is the ultimate, undeniable sign of technological conquest. Utilities are where the foundational wealth of an economy is actually generated.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Think about the transition of the early internet. It went from quirky chat rooms to the completely boring backbone of global finance. The moment a technology is measured by its operating cost rather than its novelty
is the moment it becomes indispensable.
Yes, exactly. If we look at the finance section of the briefing, capital spending is heavily concentrated in digital infrastructure. The market views AI as the fundamental plumbing for the next decade of economic growth.
Which means businesses aren't scaling back on AI. They're embedding it so deeply into their operations that they literally cannot function without it.
Precisely. It's systemic now.
But, software optimization only gets you so far before you slam headfirst into the laws of physics.
Ah, yes, the physical toll.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You cannot run a fleet of digital minivans without immense amounts of fuel.
Yeah.
And this operational shift in enterprise AI is colliding forcefully with physical reality.
The power grid is feeling it.
Deeply. The sources highlight that AI data centers are actively reshaping long-term utility planning because of their massive electricity demand.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, persistent heat waves are pressuring electric grids across the U.S.
And Europe, too.
Right. A severe European heat wave is affecting both their infrastructure and their agriculture.
We're reaching a tipping point where thermodynamics is dictating software architecture.
That sounds intense.
It is. An AI data center requires a staggering baseline of power just to run the processors, but the hidden cost is the cooling.
Because all those servers run so hot.
Right. And when you have a persistent heat wave, the ambient temperature rises, which means the data center requires exponentially more power just to cool the hardware.
Wow.
The cost of cooling a massive server farm during a European heat wave can completely offset the software efficiency gains the developers just coded. The physical environment is acting as a massive friction point for digital expansion.
That seems like a terrifying vulnerability, though. I mean, we have persistent heat waves threatening the grid, yet we are simultaneously building these massive, power-hungry AI data centers. Are we actively risking the stability of our basic physical infrastructure?
Like rolling blackouts.
Yeah, like the ability to keep hospitals and homes cooled just so an enterprise can power its AI coding assistants.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that immense pressure on the grid is actually functioning as a forced catalyst for modernization.
A force catalyst.
Yeah, the energy demand from AI is so lucrative that it is forcing a long overdue physical upgrade of our utility grids. The briefing notes that transmission infrastructure investments are accelerating right now.
So they're finally fixing the grid because big tech is footing the bill.
Pretty much. Utilities are exploring a diverse mix of energy sources to handle this. We are seeing renewed attention on nuclear energy specifically.
Really? Nuclear is making a comeback.
Oh, absolutely. Because data centers require 347 baseload power. They cannot afford to shut down when the wind stops blowing or the sun goes down.
That makes sense.
But we also seeing massive deployments of battery storage and renewable energy to balance those peak loads.
So the extreme demand from AI is funding the green transition and the grid upgrades that we've been putting off for decades.
The dynamic goes even deeper than funding, actually. The broader scientific infrastructure is expanding rapidly alongside it.
Like what?
Well, the sources point to steady investment in fusion energy research, quantum computing, and advanced materials. And the mechanism driving this is a massive feedback loop.
How does that loop work?
So AI is creating infrastructural problems due to its power draw. But those same AI models are being used to simulate millions of molecular structures to discover more efficient battery chemistry, or better thermal materials for solar panels.
So we are using the high-powered computing to figure out how to power the high-powered computing.
Exactly. Even space exploration, like NASA's Artemis mission and climate monitoring satellite networks, they're utilizing these advanced models to process atmospheric data faster than humanly possible.
That is wild. But to build all of this out, I mean, the upgraded transmission lines, the new nuclear facilities, the advanced semiconductor manufacturing, that requires an unprecedented amount of physical material.
Yes. You need incredibly robust global supply chains for that.
Right. But when we look at the geopolitical section of the brief, the global stage looks incredibly fractured.
Very volatile.
Yeah. We have Ukraine and Russia continuing long-range military operations. NATO is maintaining a heavy focus on European security. Gold, which is the ultimate safe haven asset, is reflecting ongoing geopolitical caution.
Investors are definitely hedging their bets.
And on the domestic front, the brief highlights a massive 2,000-foot drug tunnel recently uncovered connecting Mexico to the U.S. I mean, we have a world obsessed with frictionless cloud architecture, yet on the ground, human beings are digging half-mile physical tunnels to move goods across heavily guarded borders.
The contrast between our digital ambitions and our physical reality is jarring, for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
So how are global markets managing to shrug off this intense geopolitical volatility to keep the infrastructure boom going?
This raises an important question about how markets define and secure supply chain resilience in 2026.
Okay.
The geopolitical volatility you just described is exactly why governments are hyper-focused on securing specific strategic assets. Take the top story from the diplomatic briefing.
The U.S.-Iran agreement.
Yes, a tentative U.S.-Iran peace agreement that is keeping the Strait of Hormuz open and closely monitored. That is not just a diplomatic win, it is a hidden subsidy for the entire global tech boom.
Oh, because roughly 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz.
Exactly.
If that choke point closes, energy prices spike, which makes running those power-hungry AI data centers we just talked about economically devastating.
Precisely. The global markets are actively shrugging off localized conflicts because they are prioritizing the resources needed for technological dominance.
So they're compartmentalizing the chaos.
Yes. Semiconductor manufacturing and AI infrastructure are now recognized as the ultimate geopolitical weapons. The brief specifically states that China is advocating for diplomatic engagement globally, and oil prices are remaining remarkably stable despite the Eastern European conflict.
So the underlying strategy is just keeping the global assembly line moving at all costs.
Governments understand that whoever builds the most robust AI and energy infrastructure over the next decade controls the global economy. They are utilizing diplomacy to aggressively isolate volatility.
They're securing energy routes because instability is simply too expensive for the technology transition currently underway.
Exactly. The tech transition demands stability.
Well, it's easy for the enterprise sector to optimize these AI models and for diplomats to secure the supply chains in a vacuum, but they don't operate in a vacuum.
Yeah, they definitely.
They operate in a society with laws and cultures. And right now, the legal system is violently rejecting this, move fast and optimize approach.
The pushback is definitely starting.
Yeah. The brief notes that Florida has just become the first state to sue OpenAI over ChatGPT safety failures. Meanwhile, AI governance platforms and medical AI regulations are scrambling to evolve.
We are witnessing a severe lag between technological adoption and legal governance.
It feels like it.
The enterprise sector requires these models to manage their operations today. But the legal system is fundamentally unprepared to define what safety even means for an algorithm that can generate novel text, or write functional code, or process private medical data.
Right. How do you regulate a system that might just hallucinate a legal precedent?
Right.
Or misinterpret a complex prompt?
You really can't, not with old frameworks. The friction between rapid, profitable deployment and protective governance is playing out in real time in the courts because the laws were written for static software, not dynamic reasoning engines.
So what does this all mean for the culture we actually live in?
That's the real question.
It feels like we have a split personality. On one hand, we are integrating AI into critical enterprise workflows. On the other, states like Florida are suing over basic safety failures. It's like we're laying the train tracks while the train is already moving at 100 miles per hour.
That is a perfect analogy. Yet, looking at the cultural section of the brief, human behavior is stubbornly normal.
Right. You would think society would be in a state of sheer panic.
But the cultural indicators show massive resilience. The World Cup knockout stage is completely dominating global sports coverage right now.
People still love their sports.
They do. The summer movie season is active, live entertainment maintains healthy attendance, and the creator economy is expanding. Long-form media consumers remain a highly engaged audience.
Which is good news for us.
Definitely. People are not retreating from human connection, they are actively seeking it out.
The sources also mention the music industry is adapting to AI production tools, and AI is reshaping creative workflows. It seems like instead of AI replacing the culture, it's just becoming another instrument in the band.
That's a great way to put it.
We still want to watch a human being kick a soccer ball, and we still want to hear a human voice tell a story, even if an AI helped mix the audio track.
Humans are integrating the technology into our existing cultural frameworks. The tool changes, but the human desire for shared cultural touchstones like sports and cinema and music, it remains entirely intact.
Society is adapting the technology to serve its entertainment, rather than letting the technology dictate the culture.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the most immediate question for you, the listener. Because all this global diplomacy, energy modernization, and legal friction, it eventually trickles down to your Monday morning commute.
Your career trajectory.
And your health. So let's look at the workplace. The brief notes that automation is reshaping office workflows, hybrid work patterns are stable, and developers are heavily relying on those AI coding assistants.
But the massive shift here is the expansion of skills-based hiring.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Skills-based hiring fundamentally changes how an individual proves their value. Employers are shifting away from traditional credentials like a 4-year degree and focusing entirely on whether you can execute a specific workflow utilizing modern tools.
They just want to know if you can get the job done.
Right. They are looking for measurable output. However, the briefing explicitly states a crucial caveat. It says, human oversight remains essential to AI deployment.
That is the line that really caught my eye. As a professional trying to survive this 2026 economy, it sounds like we aren't being replaced by the machine. Rather, we're being forcibly promoted to managers of AI.
It's a very accurate promotion.
But if an AI coding assistant is writing the actual software syntax, or an AI agent is handling the logistics routing, how does a human worker actually demonstrate their skill in a skills-based hiring environment?
Think of the AI as a highly capable junior sous chef.
Okay, I like food analogies.
In 2023, society was amazed that the AI could simply chop onions. Now in 2026, that sous chef is cooking the entire meal.
So what's left for me to do?
Your value as a worker is no longer your ability to chop onions. Your value is being the head chef who tastes the sauce, realizes it needs a different flavor profile, and ensures the restaurant doesn't accidentally poison the customer.
Wow.
Okay.
You are the arbiter of quality and strategy.
And we see that exact same mechanism playing out in the healthcare section of the briefing, too. AI-assisted diagnostics are expanding, precision medicine investment is strong, and AI is accelerating drug discovery.
Right. In healthcare, the AI is parsing a patient's genetic code against millions of clinical trials in seconds to find a molecular match for a cancer treatment.
Which is incredible.
But the AI is not replacing the oncologist. It is enabling the oncologist to practice precision medicine. The technology handles the massive data synthesis, and the human professional applies critical judgment to the patient's specific context.
Which perfectly explains why the sources state that continuous learning remains a competitive advantage.
It's non-negotiable at this point.
Right. Continuous learning isn't about taking a weekend seminar to pad your resume anymore. It is the fundamental requirement for participating in the economy. The tools you use to parse genomic data or write software in January might be entirely obsolete by July.
And your skill is your adaptability.
Exactly. Knowing how to ask the AI the right question and then having the expertise to verify that the AI's answer is actually correct before it goes live.
Your ability to provide that essential human oversight over automated processes is the only moat you have left.
So, bringing all these threads together, mid-2026 is truly defined by this grand maturation. The science fiction hype is burned off, and the actual physical work has begun.
And hard work!
Yeah, AI has shifted from a parlor trick into a highly profitable everyday utility. But powering that shift is placing immense thermodynamic pressure on our physical world.
Which is forcing a massive, long overdue modernization of our power grids and a renewed push into nuclear and advanced energy.
Meanwhile, global diplomacy is acting as a hidden subsidy, quietly keeping the geopolitical peace in key energy corridors so the massive global assembly line doesn't just halt.
Everything is connected.
It really is. And amidst the legal friction of states suing over safety, the human workforce is being asked to abandon the old credential system, adapt to skills-based hiring, and step up as the essential managers of these hyper-capable systems.
That's the reality of the ground floor right now.
For you listening, staying well-informed right now isn't about knowing the name of the newest app. It's about understanding the concrete, the copper wire, the diplomatic treaties, and the enterprise mechanics hiding just beneath the surface of this new operational reality.
The transition from digital novelty to physical infrastructure is absolutely the defining story of this year. But there's one final piece of this puzzle worth considering as we look forward.
What's that?
Well, the sources emphasize heavily that human oversight remains essential to AI deployment today. But as AI coding assistants continue to rapidly evolve, they aren't just writing basic scripts anymore. They are beginning to refactor legacy systems and manage complex cloud architectures all on their own.
Right, they're getting more autonomous.
Exactly. As enterprise AI becomes fully responsible for operational reliability, we're actively inching toward a world where AI designs, monitors, and repairs its own infrastructure.
Oh, wow.
The systems are designed to become self-optimizing. So the question we must ask ourselves is this: at what point does human oversight stop being an essential safety mechanism and start being merely a ceremonial title?
That's a chilling thought.
And what happens to a skills-based workforce when the baseline skill required is simply trusting the machine's judgment over your own?
A deeply unsettling but absolutely necessary question to ponder as we continue to integrate these systems into the very foundation of our daily lives. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning the narrative, keep looking at the mechanisms behind the headlines, and we'll catch you next time as we continue to decode the forces shaping our world.